Dividend decisions. Dividend decisions cover relevance of dividends and determinants of a dividend policy. So that will be covered in this section. We'll be going through a little detail on Walter's model and Gordon's model. Both of these models support the relationship which exists between capital structure and value of the firm. So let us go through it. But before that, let us also discuss theory a little bit about what it thought about the relationship which exists between capital structure and value of a firm. So there exist some theories that considers the dividend decisions for a firm's shareholders to be an active variable in determining the firm's value. Some such theories are Walter's model and Gordon's model, whereas there exist some other theories like hypothesis which does not take that stance. So in hypothesis, Miller and Modigliani maintain that dividend policy has no effect on the share price of the firm and is therefore irrelevant. The share price as well as the value of the firm. According to them, what matters is only the investment policy, and it is the investment policy that increases a firm's earnings and through which the value of the firm increases. Hence, given an investment decision of the firm splits the earnings of the firm into retained earnings and dividends. And under conditions of perfect capital market, rational investors does not differentiate between dividend income and capital appreciation. And hence, there exists no argument that supports that dividend decision in fact do influence the share price or the market price of a firm's share. Let us now take a look at the relevance of dividends. So here we are talking about dividends, the importance of dividends. So the Walters model and Gordon's model, they actually tell that dividend decisions in fact influence the share price or the market price of a firm's share, and thereby capital structure also to some extent. But the main point is that the dividend decisions influence share price or market price of a firm's share according to Walter's model and Gordon's model. So we'll take a look at what each of them means. Walter's model. So as explained, Walter's model support the stance that dividend policy affects the market price of a firm's shares and hence value of the enterprise. The theory states that dividend policy of the firm cannot be separated from investment policy, and according to Walter, both are interlinked. The key in this theory is the relationship between return on firm's investment or internal rate of return R and its required rate of return K or the cost of capital. So there exists definitely a relationship between a firm's investment or internal rate of return, firm's investment or internal rate of return which is R, and the required rate of return or its cost of capital which is K. So there is a relationship between R and K. R is investment, K is rate of return or cost of capital. So the firm will have an optimum dividend policy dictated by the relationship of K and R. Now we will see what is that relationship. Okay. That is, whenever the return on investments R exceeds the cost of capital K, the firm should retain its earnings. So whenever the return on investments, which is R, exceeds the cost of capital K, so there is enough investment, we actually retain the earnings. Whereas it should distribute its earnings as dividend to shareholders, which they should not do. But whenever the required rate of return K exceeds expected return on investments, they should distribute its earnings as dividends. So when the required rate of return is more than the expected return on investments. So there aren't enough investments, but there is a required rate which is K, which is more than what is the expected return on investments. Investments may be there or not, which is not the point here. So at that point, when K is greater than R, it should distribute its earnings as dividends to shareholders. That is, according to Walter's model, if R is greater than K, if investments are greater than cost of capital, the rationale is that firm can earn more than what shareholders do by reinvesting their earnings which are paid to them. On the other hand, if R is less than K, that is, if investments or the rate of return, if the investments actually are greater, if it is less than cost of capital, then shareholders earn a hefty sum by investing outside. and hence the market price of its shares may increase. So according to Walter's model, the equation is P, which is the price of equity share, is given by D, which is dividend or initial dividend, divided by KE minus G, where KE is the cost of equity capital, which we have discussed earlier, and G is the expected growth rate of its earnings. So that is the price of the share, price of the equity share. And it has a direct relationship to dividends. It actually has an inverse relationship to the cost of equity capital. Also, according to Walter's model, the following equation is also true. D plus R by KE into E minus D by KE. So that also is true. So now the basics of that equation is that P is the prevailing market price of a share, D is the dividend per share, E is the earnings per share, and R the rate of return on firm's investment. So when investments are more than cost of capital, rational is that the firms can earn more than what shareholders do by investing if earnings are paid to them. On the other hand, if the investments are less than cost of capital, shareholders earn a hefty sum by investing outside, and hence the market price of its shares increase. This is the gist of Walter's model. Now we'll take a look at what is Gordon's model. Here, Gordon's model also supports the fact that dividend decisions influence share price or market price of a firm's share. So according to Gordon's model, like Walter's model, it supports the idea that dividends declared for its shareholders by a firm has a direct effect on the market price of its shares and hence the firm values. Now, there are some assumptions which it is made in Gordon's model, which are: one, firm is an all-equity firm. No external financing whatsoever, as well as investment programs are financed entirely by retained earnings. So, in investment programs are financed entirely by retained earnings. There is no external financing, and firm is an all-equity firm. That is the first assumption of Gordon's model. Second assumption is KE and R. R is investments, KE is cost of capital, KE is cost of equity, which are constants where the firm has perpetual life. Third point is retention ratio. This is also an assumption. Retention ratio B, once decided, remains constant. Thus, growth rate, which is G is equal to BR, is also constant. Next assumption which they make is the dividend to price ratio is a constant for a given B, or retention ratio, and KE is greater than BR. So according to Gordon, investors are risk averse and places a premium on a certain return and penalize uncertain returns. So what is so-called future dividends are seen in this theory as a risky promise. And also, according to Gordon, investors may be likely pay a higher price on shares for which current dividends are paid. Also, the value of shares is discounted on which dividends are not paid or future dividends may be paid. Hence, discount rate is proportionally rising for an increase of retained earnings according to this model. A more concise version of Gordon's model can be also given by this equation, which we have gone over. There is also an exercise, an illustration which we have done in the exercise book, which is available from reference section. So you can actually download that Excel file which has a problem. So you can go through the problem and understand Gordon's model a little bit more clearly. So remember, Gordon's model reveals that market price of a share shows an increasing trend when the dividend rates go up as per the dividend to price ratio. So this completes the theories on dividend decisions. Thank you.